Level 1, the invitation. You don't apply for this life. You get chosen. It starts with a message. No name, no company, just a number and 2 words. Call us. You're 24. You're smart. You work at a mid-tier finance firm in Singapore. You wear the same 3 shirts on rotation. You eat at your desk. You're good at your job, but nobody knows your name. So you stare at that message for 3 days. Then you call. A voice answers. Calm. British accent. He says you came highly recommended. He says the position pays 8 times your current salary.
Level 2, the first move. Your apartment in Zurich costs more per month than your parents' house is worth. They paid for it. Your job title is Wealth Structuring Analyst. You tell people you work in finance. That's not a lie. Your first assignment is simple, on paper. A client, you never know their name, only a code, has $40 million sitting in a Cayman account. Your job is to run it through a chain of shell companies across 3 jurisdictions and land it in a Luxembourg private fund, clean. You spend 6 days building the structure, 14 entities, 4 countries, lawyers in each time zone you'll never meet in person. On day 7, you send the memo. The wire clears by noon. At 2 p.m., a car arrives at your building. The driver hands you an envelope. Inside is a watch. No note. Patek Philippe, rose gold, worth more than your old annual salary. You put it on. It feels heavier than it looks. That evening you call your mother. She asks how the new job is. You tell her it's going well. You don't sleep that night either, but it's different now. It's not anxiety, it's electricity. Level 3, the network. 3 months in, you're not nervous anymore. That should scare you, but it doesn't. You've met 4 other people at your level. You share nothing personal. You know each other only by city. You're Singapore. There's London, Dubai, Sao Paulo, and one they just call Ghost. Ghost handles clients no one else will touch. You don't ask questions about Ghost. Your client list grows. Old money, new money, dirty money that wants a clean birth certificate. You structure funds for a tech billionaire in Seoul who can't let his government know how much he has. You build a trust in Liechtenstein for a family whose patriarch is under EU sanctions. You run a real estate vehicle in Dubai for someone your supervisor only refers to as the minister. You never see their faces. You never want to. The money is always enormous. The instructions are always precise. And you are very, very good at this. Your supervisor calls you into his office one morning. He's smiling, which you've never seen before. He tells you you've been promoted. He tells you your new clients are different. He leans forward and says, "These ones don't just have money, they are the money." Level 4. The real client. You fly private the first time at level 4, not chartered, private. The firm's plane, tail number registered to a foundation in Malta that exists only as a letterhead. You land in Monaco. A car meets you on the tarmac. You're taken to a villa above the city. It overlooks the Mediterranean, the kind of view that makes you understand why people do terrible things for power. You meet the client for the first time. He's older, quiet, unremarkable looking, the kind of man you'd forget in a crowd. He's wearing a linen shirt, no jewelry, no watch. He already knows everything about you. He tells you what he needs. 1 sentence. He wants his net worth to be unknowable. Not hidden, not protected, unknowable. Even to governments, even to other billionaires, even to his own family. He wants to exist in every country and belong to none. He wants to own everything and appear to own nothing. He wants to be a ghost that signs checks. You spend the next 4 months building the most complex wealth architecture you've ever seen. 47 entities, 6 continents, real estate, art funds, agricultural land, private equity, sovereign bonds held through a private bank in Geneva that services fewer than 200 families worldwide. When it's done, even you can't trace it. He wires you a bonus, personal, not through the firm. It's $4 million. Level 5. The cost of the life. Here's what they don't show you in the movies. You can't talk to anyone. Not really. You have friends, people who think they're your friends. You have dinners, bottles of wine, weekends in Ibiza. You smile, you laugh, you tell them you work in asset management. But there is a version of your life that no one on earth knows exists. You own a share of a vineyard in Burgundy under a name that isn't yours. You have an account in a bank that doesn't advertise, doesn't have a website, and requires an introduction from an existing client to open. You have a lawyer in 3 countries who answers your calls before the second ring. You are 27 years old. You have more money than you will ever spend. And some mornings you wake up in your glass apartment above the city and you feel nothing. Not happy, not guilty, just vacant. You try to remember the person who used to eat at his desk, the one with 3 shirts. You can barely see his face. One night, London calls you. Drunk, talking too much. He says he's been approached by someone outside the firm, an investigative journalist. He says he panicked and hung up. You go cold. You call your supervisor within the hour. Your supervisor is silent for a long moment. Then he says, "This has been handled before." You don't ask what that means. You already know. And the fact that you already know, without flinching, tells you everything about who you've become. Level 6, the untouchable layer. By level 6, you are no longer just protecting money. You are protecting people who protect money. Your clients are not visible billionaires. They don't post on Instagram. They don't ring bells on stock exchanges. They don't give TED Talks about disruption. They own the people who do all of that. One client controls the energy supply for 3 European cities through a chain of subsidiaries so layered that his ownership is buried under 42 levels of corporate structure. A government audit would take 11 years to reach him, by which point every document along the chain would already be in a new jurisdiction. Another client has a face you've seen before, a politician, a man who gives speeches about corruption. You help him hide $300 million. You don't feel disgust anymore. You feel efficiency. That worries you sometimes, late at night, in hotels that cost $4,000 a night, in cities you've forgotten the names of. But the worry is quiet now. It used to roar. Now it's just a hum, background noise, easy to ignore. Then one morning you get a call that isn't from the firm. It's from an unknown number. A voice says your real name, not your work name, your birth name, followed your mother's address in the city where you grew up. Then they hang up. You sit very still for a very long time. Level 7, paranoia as a lifestyle. You don't go home for Christmas. You tell your mother you're traveling for work. She says she understands. She doesn't. You hire a private security firm. Not for yourself, for her. She doesn't know. She thinks the new lock system was a neighborhood initiative. You change your phone every 30 days. You use encrypted messaging apps that delete after reading. You stop using credit cards in your own name. You have a car service in every city you visit regularly. The drivers know your face, not your name. You trust no one. Not London, not Dubai, not Sao Paulo, especially not Ghost. You request a meeting with your supervisor, in person, no phones in the room. You tell him you think someone is watching you. He doesn't look surprised. He slides a folder across the table. Inside is a photograph. A man, tall, gray coat, outside your building in Geneva, taken 3 weeks ago.
"We know," your supervisor says. "Who is he?" you ask. Your supervisor closes the folder. "Someone who used to be where you are." You understand immediately. This isn't law enforcement. This isn't a journalist. This is someone from inside the world you live in. Someone who was removed. Someone who now wants something. Your supervisor looks at you steadily. This is when we find out what kind of person you are. You leave the meeting. You walk back to your apartment. You sit in the dark. You think about the $4 million wire, the untraceable account, the lawyer in 3 countries, and you realize with cold, perfect clarity that you are not the most powerful person in this room. You are an asset, and assets can be liquidated.
Level 8, the architecture of disappearance. You were always the one helping others disappear. Now it's your turn. You spend 6 weeks quietly building your own structure. You do it the way you do everything, methodically, invisibly, piece by piece. You move money slowly, small transfers, different currencies, nothing that triggers a threshold, nothing that looks intentional. You buy a property in a country with no extradition treaty, in a name attached to a company, attached to a trust, attached to a foundation. 5 layers. The foundation has a nominee director who has never met you. The nominee director doesn't know your name. He signs what he's told to sign. He earns a fee. That's it. You establish a new identity through a legal process that took 2 years of patient groundwork, a second citizenship, a second passport, a second name. You've been planning this since level 5. You didn't know it then, but some part of you knew. The morning you leave, you don't pack much. A bag, the passport. A drive with every document you've ever created, for every client you've ever had. That drive is your insurance policy. That drive is the only reason you'll stay alive. You walk out of your Geneva apartment at 6 a.m. The city is quiet. The lake is gray and still. You stop on the street for just a moment. You feel something you haven't felt in years. Fear. Real, clean, honest fear. Not the performative kind you practiced in meeting rooms. The kind that reminds you you're human. It almost feels like relief.
Level 9. The untouchable truth alive. Here's what you've learned. The most untouchable rich person alive is not the one with the most money. It's the one who doesn't exist. No name on a list, no flag on a database, no face in a photograph, no country that claims them, no family that can be pressured, no identity that can be threatened. The billionaires you see on magazine covers, they're visible. Visibility is vulnerability. A target has to be visible to be hit. The truly untouchable ones are the ones you've never heard of. They don't own things. They control things through layers of people who own things on their behalf. They don't travel on their own passports. They don't own the properties they live in. They don't sit on boards. They don't give interviews. They don't need to. They are the gravity in the room that no one can see, the force that moves things without touching them. You built the architecture for several of them. Now you're building it for yourself. And here's the part no one tells you. Once you step fully into that invisibility, you can never come back. You can't claim a Nobel Prize. You can't go to your mother's funeral with your real face. You can't fall in love with someone who knows your real name. You win everything, and you lose everything that made winning worth wanting.
Level 10. The cycle. You're in a city that isn't on your record. You're sitting across from a young analyst, 24 years old, smart, hungry, wearing the same shirt he probably wore yesterday. He looks like someone you used to know. You slide a single sheet of paper across the table. You don't wear a watch today. Watches can be remembered. You say only what needs to be said. Your role is to make money disappear. He picks up the pen. His hand doesn't shake. That's how you know he'll be good at this. You stand. You button your jacket. You walk to the door. You don't look back. The door closes. The cycle continues. And somewhere on a server, in a jurisdiction that doesn't share data with anyone, your real name is filed next to the name of every person who ever sat in that chair before you. The file is labeled Assets, Current. Below your name, a single line, Untouchable.